here to share one interesting matter with everyone. Who has the largest power in the world? There may be a lot of answers. There's one article in our primary school textbook called The Power of Seed. It offers us one perfect answer. The writer, Mr. Xia Bing, said, "It is seed that has the largest power in the world." One seed is very small. However, it can turn over one stone when it's germinating and growing. However, in the face of severe natural disasters, the power of the seed is very likely to be stifled. Today, we're going to mention our natural fertilizer, which can supply power to seed and help seed to overcome the natural disasters. It is from the blue ocean, a named seaweed fertilizer.
The germination of wheat seed and the growth of wheat, the power of seed, the growth of the root. Through our timing photography, we could see the whole process of germination of the wheat seeds clearly. The same kind of seed, the same natural condition, but there is a big difference due to the application of different fertilizers. The same process falls into the two groups taking root and seeding. However, we could find that one group is obviously stronger. One plate is with sponge, one plate is with seaweed fertilizer. When we replace the filter paper by sponge, we can clearly see the seed is striving to break through the resistance to put down roots. Obviously, the group in the left is stronger. Just because the seaweed fertilizer supplies full nutrition to the seed, this group of seed becomes much stronger.
In the early of 2011, one of the most severe drought occurred in Shandong in recent 50 years, which seriously damaged winter wheat in large scale. However, in one small village named Gutengmangcun village, it made a miracle. Just because its farmers applied seaweed fertilizer, the wheat grew well. It attracted a lot of visitors and became famous in short time. Mr. Xia Jingyuan, the leader of anti-drought group of Shandong from the Ministry of Agriculture, the Director General of National Agrotech Extension and Service Center, visited this small village personally.
At first, I heard about the story that their village had very good effect on anti-drought. Then I came here personally, and that it was true that their effect was very good.
What applied seaweed fertilizer has special effect against drought? What are the main features?
The key point is that their roots are strong. Compared to those without application of seaweed fertilizer, they have about 2 to 3 roots more, besides their roots stuck deep in the soil. The other wheat only has 1 taproot without any small roots.
The roots stuck deeper and wider, the more moisture and nutrition absorption, the stronger the wheat grows and resists against the drought. Besides, the tiller number is increasing too.
We have made investigation before winter. The tiller number increased 1 to 2 pieces.
As we see, the seaweed fertilizer is good, but where is it from? Do you know what the new kind of fertilizer made of?
Sorry, I do not know.
Have you ever thought about this?
No, never.
Seaweed fertilizers come from ocean. There are many species of seaweed. Most of them attach themselves to the rocks along the seaside or grow in the deep sea. In history, seaweed fertilizers were widely applied and developed in European countries and regions which were rich in coastal plain. In the 17th century, it was very famous that the crops and vegetables were very good along the several hundred miles of coastline of Brittany and Normandy. It was named as Gold Coast. Later, seaweed fertilizers have been gotten the support of modern science and technology.
In the 1930s, European countries started research on seaweed They found that seaweed was rich in full nutrition, and they started to produce seaweed fertilizers with microbiotechnology.
In 1980s and 1990s, the developed European and American countries paid unprecedented attention to seaweed fertilizers as a kind of natural fertilizer. Deputy President of China's Seaweed Industry Association, Ms. Tang Jie, we started to research and develop seaweed fertilizer since 1994. At that time, we found that seaweed fertilizer became very popular in the overseas market because the organic agriculture was very popular then.
Why seaweed fertilizer is so different? Why it could bring magical changes to the crops? It was soaked in the sea. As we know, the sea is rich in salt. It could grow well in the salty condition. Besides, the temperature in the sea is quite lower than that in the land, several degrees lower for the same time. What's more, the light application is also worse than that in the land because of the filtration by sea. Even in so bad condition, it could grow so well. If we could adopt its features to apply in our terrestrial plants, it is sure to show obvious effects.
What's the main use of seaweed traditionally in Chinese history?
To eat, we eat its leaves and stem. We never use it as fertilizer. Ms. Tang Jie, one of the early experts and industrialists who started to research and develop seaweed fertilizer, and she is also one of the leaders in Chinese research and development of seaweed fertilizer in recent decades. She began to research and develop seaweed fertilizer in 1994. At that time, there was no civilian application of seaweed fertilizer traditionally, but also any corresponding accumulation of scientific research academically. Why did Ms. Tang Jie go upstream despite difficulties?
As the coastline in our country is very long, China is very rich in seaweed resources. Meanwhile, China is nearly the largest country in amount of artificial culture of seaweed.
This is an important prerequisite for the development of seaweed fertilizer. Meanwhile, Ms. Tang Jie and her team also pay more attention to the properties of the seaweed as a kind of new energy.
Ms. Tang Jie, as we know, chemical fertilizers rely on non-renewable resources like natural gas and oil. Seaweed absorbs rich nutrients from the ocean, and it is also a renewable resource. Therefore, we propose to develop fertilizer sourced from ocean. Almost all the people I met would ask me, is there any Ascosphallum nodosum in China? Western manufacturers produce seaweed fertilizers with Ascosphallum nodosum, which grows only in Atlantic coast. As we all know, China has no Ascosphallum nodosum in her ocean. So as a substitute, the first thing we should do is to pick a proper seaweed category among many. The power of seaweed fertilizer comes from seaweed, but if nobody makes the development, these powers will not release. Although sorghum is regarded as the ideal raw materials for seaweed fertilizer, but letting the crop to receive its power, it still have to adopt a series of excellent advanced extraction and processing technology. Seaweed fertilizer is very popular now. Actually, though sorghum have the strong power, it can only be used by crops due to Ms. Tang Jie and her team's long years hard working and development. Through 4 years of hard working, Ms. Tang Jie and her team finally developed independently the special Chinese seaweed fertilizer, breaking the myth that Asia could not produce seaweed fertilizer. However, whether Chinese seaweed fertilizer is also with power. There is certainly no Ascosphallum nodosum in China, which is used by Western countries to produce seaweed fertilizer. What kind of Chinese seaweed is found finally by Ms. Tang Jie and her team? We convert the South China Sea, the Yellow Sea, and the East China Sea. Founding the seaweed from hundreds of seaweeds, it is one of bronze seaweed called sorghum.
According to different colors, seaweed is generally divided into red type, green type, and brown type. The brown sargassum, every plant sticks to the rock at the seashore or at the bottom of the sea, growing from every October. In the next July and August, when the weather is becoming hot, the whole plant will disappear in the sea, only leaving numbers of spores, also as its seeds, floating to everywhere and beginning a new life turn when facing a proper time. In the past, at nature status, sargassum grew in bulk quantity and died by itself, like weeds on the roadside without people's attention.
This was not used by people 10 years ago and died by itself like this.
Die by it? It'd just be used after you produce seaweed fertilizer?
Yes.
Among so many types of seaweed, why Miss Tongji and her team chose sargassum.
This kind of seaweed is very magical. Begin to grow in every October, achieving 4 meters within half a year, with strong growing ability, containing many pores inside. Each one can grow to its length, so it is also called as the queen of seaweed by people. The reason is just because it has great vitality. Sargassum grows quickly and has strong life force, and if it is used as fertilizer, what advantage will farmers have? Sargassum has lots of branches and high content of cytokine. So this kind of seaweed fertilizer extracted from sargassum can promote plants to grow more small branches, and plants bear fruits in small branches.
Sargassum is called seaweed queen, culturing number of hero mothers. I think it indeed has the power and energy supply. However, with its a few months growing period with a slim body, where comes the strong power as called seaweed queen.
There is a matter called alginate in it, with strong absorption capability.
Sargassum with alginate absorb mineral nutrition in sea, just like sponge absorbs water. The research identified that the lion and micromineral matter content in seaweed is hundreds of times of that in the sea, water, rich in K, so it is the ideal seaweed fertilizer source of Miss Tongji and her team. Moreover, the motive power for promoting seaweed fertilizer developing and preserving energy, due to that sargassum contains natural active material seaweed hormone, seaweed antibiotics, and futsoidan.
What is the magic active Andaria pinnatafida material? There's a kind of sticky and slippery material on the face of kelp, all which are familiar with us. In the lab, crushing sargassum into pieces, it will become a sticky liquid like this. The sticky ingredients are the materials called fucoidan, seaweed hormone, and antibiotics.
Laura plant has a specific polysaccharide. Polysaccharide has the function of improving immunity. For plant, it can resist to a variety of bacteria and viruses. From a certain extent, it can resist parasite, adjust self-immunity, improve vulnerability stresses of plant. It has a significant effect on water holding.
The most important thing is that such active substance can offer enough nutrition for crops, even if it is an outsider element for crops.
Mr. Gong Shiyu, it is extracted from natural without any process, so it is very effective to terrestrial plant and without any side effects. It seems as diet therapy. It can adjust the quality of crops from the beginning, improve the ability of frost resisting and stress resistance during the growing process. After researching on hundreds of choices, we found our answer, the sargasso, which indeed meets our high expectation. After many experiments, Tongji R&D team finally proved that sargasso has the same efficient substances as Ascophyllum notisum. The sargassum have a strong ability of reproduction due to its contained rich cytokinin. It can absorb the nutrition from the sea at the same time, so it is the best ideal choice for production seaweed fertilizer. But how can we use those efficient ingredients? How make it to be fertilizer?
科技院正在播出。
One of the Miss Tangier purposes of developing seaweed fertilizer is through seaweed to collect mostly the nutrition lost from terrestrial plant to ocean and give back to plants. In theory, sargassum is the perfect resource of fertilizer, but in practice, there still existed a big problem that how to extract the efficient ingredient from sargassum to produce seaweed fertilizer. The biggest difficulty for research work is actually the extraction technology. If there is no biological technology to extract the active substances, plants cannot use so large molecules. So this is the most key technology.
Ms. Gongxiyu, for example, like a big ox steel plate, we can't eat it. What we should do is to crush it so people can eat it. This extraction technology has taken 4 years, and the research has a happy ending finally. And like this seaweed extract liquid, by biological technology, it is totally soluble in water, no precipitation, so it can ensure smooth absorption by crops.
Sargasso's strong vitality comes from the active substance in its body. It is exciting and encouraging news that such powerful and magical substance can be extracted successfully. However, more field demonstration is still needed.
Sargasso's strong vitality comes from its active substance in its body. No wonder this is an encouraging message. However, this still cannot be called real success. More field demonstration is still needed.
During the process, we have done a lot of field experiments on different crops across the world. For example, under moderate and severe drought situations, a huge difference appears between the crops, such as wheat with Sargassum fertilizers and the one without. The farmers show strong drought resistance.
So it is not hard to understand why facing the most severe drought occurred in recent 50 years, the wheat in Guchengma village used seaweed fertilizer, had so outstanding behavior and so different from others, and attracted a lot of visitors from all over China. What is more valuable is that the active material in sargassum can improve the soil and protect the environment effectively.
This is also certified by more facts. In the wheat field of Guchengma village of Huimin County, Shandong province, we came to interview in spring. The farmers told us, compared with the wheat field without seaweed fertilizer application, these wheat tillering increased a lot.
Generally speaking, the normal number of tillering is 6 to 7, or the most of 9, but now it can reach 12, and they are effective tillering with wheat ear, and it is not effective tillering then no wheat ear. This small tillering without wheat ear, applying this seaweed fertilizer plays the key role in the increase of yielding.
Each seed of wheat has 2 to 3 wheat tears more than others. The average yield increasing by 10%. The total area of wheat in this village is 800 mu, so it can totally increase more than 20,000 kilograms of wheat. Besides, the plants with more fruits will grow very nice. The size and height are almost the same.
It looks like being cut by knife, very tidy and comfortable.
What is the reason? Seaweed fertilizer extracted from sargassum can promote plant to grow more branches, and plants have fruits in the small branches. In the meantime, it controls top growing advantage. So this is a very good feature of seaweed fertilizer. Seaweed fertilizer can adjust plant growing properly, getting more fruits, increase yield, matching with the reputation of queen of seaweed, making lots of plants being hero mother.
Anyway, it is good. The yield is high by using the same fertilizer. How nice, you see? Average size, big grain and fat. Much better than last year. Last year, the yield of this land was just 10 liters. How many liters this year? 20 liters. Is it good? Sure, rather good. We also see that in the nearby village, the near field with the same natural condition of Guchengma village, without applying seaweed fertilizer, the yield is lower than Guchengma village.
What is more valuable is that the active material in sorghum can improve the soil and protect the environment effectively.
In the past, we mainly used traditional microelement or fertilizer. In recent years, like China, we begin to use some biological fertilizer, active fertilizer, and the yield is higher and the environment is well protected.
Such a kind of fertilizer which can provide the nutrition to crops and adjust crops growing. Why seaweed fertilizer can also improve the soil and protect the environment.
Oligomerization alginate is water-soluble composition. After it penetrates into soil, it will form a center and form small particles. After the whole of hardening soil, changing into many smaller particles, the soil will become loose.
Most of the farmland soils become hardened due to using chemical fertilizer for a long time. How is such soil hardening caused? The good soil is colloid. Taking a more popular example to metaphor, porridge is also a colloid. Everyone can imagine that. Most of chemical fertilizer has a high salinity. If you put more salt to the porridge, it will become thin without granules and not sticky. So, if you use more chemical fertilizer in soil, the same situation will also happen. But seaweed fertilizer can solve this problem. After using our seaweed fertilizer, the soil will become more and richer. The yield is higher, but the nutrition of soil is not taken. So farmers who use seaweed fertilizer for a long time find that the soil is very loose.
Due to this point, as a fertilizer, seaweed fertilizer obtains the higher attention by the government leaders of Huimin County. Guchengma village uses seaweed fertilizer in large area. It cannot separate from the higher attention by the government. National Agricultural Ecological Demonstration County and also a greening model county. We pay special attention to eco-agriculture and green agriculture. After contacting with Leili, its fertilization concept and our eco-agriculture concept are very coincident. So for the promotion of Leili's seaweed fertilizer, Huimin County's government pays special attention.
Miss Town and her team have conquered after several years. The extraction technology finally, including a series of seaweed fertilizer production problems. China's seaweed fertilizer has been promoted to many countries of the world successfully and has been recognized widely. Today, China pays more and more attention to green agriculture, so seaweed fertilizer is getting more and more popular and recognition by more people.